Good morning, everybody. My name is Barry Schwartz, and this is the Search Buzz video recap. Today is Friday, October 9th, and this is the search news we covered over at the Search Engine Roundtable at seroundtable.com over the past week. The big news this week, we got more status reports on the indexing bugs that happened over the past couple weeks with Google. Google also launched web stories in Google Discover, and Bing has rebranded to Microsoft Bing with a brand new logo. So stay tuned. All right, so first up, I always like to do this monthly Google Webmaster report where I cover some of the biggest news over the past month with Google search, specifically related to webmasters. And I did that again this past week. I posted on October 5th. Obviously, the biggest news were around indexing and ranking issues in Google search, specifically the canonicalization issue, which we discussed last week, the mobile indexing issue as well. There was a news indexing issue earlier in the week. The top stories carousel having issues, and so forth. So lots and lots of bugs, potential algorithm updates as well. We discussed broad core algorithm updates and recoveries, the anti-Semitic images before Yom Kippur, Google Shopping adding new schema for shipping results, making Google Shopping completely free globally, and fact-checking, plus it was Google's 22nd birthday, plus a lot more. So if you want to recap pretty much everything that's important for webmasters over the past month in Google search, definitely take a look at that post on October 5th. You can learn more there. So Google's been giving us more information around the canonicalization and image and mobile indexing issues. The issues started around September 20th, late that day, and it lasted through about a week or so ago. Google posted this update late Friday evening last week. It said the canonicalization issue impacted about 0.02% of the index, and it started on September 20th. Google said they restored about 10% at that time, but then they gave another update, which I'll talk a little bit later. On the mobile indexing side, they said it impacted about 0.2%, so a much larger percentage of the index. So definitely see people actually showing recoveries around that. So that's very interesting to see as well, because people are actually noticing different recoveries. And then I believe Monday night or Tuesday, Google posted another update with another status report where basically saying what the status of the issue was. And with the canonicalization issue, the canonical issue, Google said they restored about 25% of those URLs. And with the mobile indexing issue, they fixed about 50% of those URLs. And this was literally, I think, October 5th, which was, I think, Monday or Tuesday of this week. So hopefully by now, it should hopefully be almost fully resolved. I think John Mueller said he thinks it's almost fully resolved. So hopefully we'll get another update soon, and we will see what's going on with that. Again, major issues with Google's indexing. Very interesting to see. On that front, Google said they will be updating the Search Console reports to show a little annotation and mark when these issues occurred. So we will definitely see, hopefully from Google Search Console, a little annotation in those reports to show you what has changed there. I don't see that update yet, but hopefully we'll see it soon so you know when to annotate those charts. Google is really pushing web stories. So now Google is showing web stories on Google Discover. So if you go to the Google homepage on the Google Search app, on Google Mobile or desktop even, if you have that feature enabled, you could potentially see web stories carousel directly on the top of the search results. Google initially said it's going to be on the top of the Google Discover feed. And that's not exactly true. It's towards the top, not the actual top, which is very interesting to see. If you want to integrate that, there's lots of little plugins you can use for WordPress and different things. But also Google actually released web stories policies, best practices, and more examples. So they have added to their search developer docs a bunch of policies. The policies include using copyrighted material, text-heavy web stories is not a good thing. Low quality assets, lack of narrative. They want it to be a storytelling thing, obviously web stories. Incomplete stories, you make sure you just tell the whole story, not some of the story, and make sure it's not overly commercial. They don't want commercial related stuff in there. And they also gave best practices, and I listed them all. I'm not gonna go through all of them. There's about, a few dozen best practices around how you should actually make your web stories so that they show up and so forth. So definitely take a look at that. A link below in the description on the video. So back in August, we reported when there was a Google search bug, I think it was like August 10th or so, a lot of people after that noticed that this Google Discover traffic has completely dropped off the map. We covered that news, but it looks like some publishers are now seeing an increase in their Google Discover traffic. In fact, actually, when we reported about it back in earlier September, about that issue, we noticed some people actually reporting they saw some recoveries, but it looks like now even more and more publishers are noticing Google Discover recoveries. I'm not sure if it's related to Google fixing these canonicalization issues or mobile indexing issues, but there are some more publishers that are noticing recoveries there. Gary from Google, in the latest search podcast that they have, Search Off the Record podcast with Gary and Martin and John Mueller, went ahead and explained Caffeine and what it does. I'm not going to go through it all, but basically it's a whole set of things. It's not just one thing. It's not just how they store their stuff in their index or how they go about doing it and what they do. It's also how they break it down, how they convert the stuff. It's a very interesting conversation. It's about 10 minutes long. I included that podcast snippet in the actual blog post on Search and Rental blog on October 8th. So if you want to read the transcript, you can. If you want to listen to it, you can. It's all there. Very interesting conversation about Caffeine. Again, Caffeine is very, very old. It's over 10 years old, but it seems like Google's still using it significantly. On the how-to side, Danny Sullivan wrote a blog post yesterday on the Google search blog basically describing how Google autocomplete predictions are generated. It goes through a bunch of things about, it's not just about queries and trends and stuff like that. It's also using location-based stuff, geographic-based stuff, previous searches to make it more tailored to the search individual user. There's also policies. They're much more stricter about what predictions they show around the elections, around hate, around adult stuff, and so forth. So there's lots of policies and ways to report it. Back in the old days, it was very, very simple to actually go ahead and kind of spam those autocompletes, but now it's much, much harder. You don't see that happening that often anymore. Bing, on the other side, launched support for intelligent answers across 100 plus different languages. So that's a big expansion. They're using a lot of machine learning for that. And now those intelligent answers from Bing are actually on 100 plus different languages and regions. A lot of Google My Business related stuff. On the Google My Business side, now Google is testing the ability to show people what's called a preview call history. It basically shows you your missed calls or actually accepted calls that were generated by people clicking on the call button in the Google local panel for your knowledge panel. Some people are seeing that. If you log into your Google My Business account, you might see an option for that. Also, Google, we discussed this about a month ago, where they're actually integrating like online video features in Google My Business. Well, it seems like they actually added a much more features, specifically with booking agents. So specifically Wellness Living, Open Salon, Go Panche, or Panache, Bookio, and Booksy. Those are online services that you can integrate with Google My Business, where you could actually offer online video integration through Zoom and other services. So if you have online classes or you do online appointments for doctors and stuff like that, or wellness appointments, you can actually integrate those services to do actually online video directly through Google My Business, which is very interesting to see. On the video side, if you upload videos to Google My Business, you used to be able to upload 100 megabyte video files to your business profile. They reduced that about a couple months ago to 75 megabytes, which I'm surprised by, but it is what it is. On the Google Ads front, Google Ads added a bunch of new reporting features and other features around reporting, including new insights reports, trends reports, growth opportunities, and a lot more. So definitely take a look at those reports and features, because there's a lot of cool features around Google Ads, which I posted about just the other day. And also Google, you reported about this I think a week or so ago, where Google Ads has simplified their location reporting. And Ginny Marvin did a deep dive in this, and it looks like they didn't just simplify it. They actually started to remove information, specifically around where you could actually find people are when they're searching. So if you want to get to that data, you can. It's just a lot more complicated now. And Ginny Marvin at Searcherland did a very good blog post describing how to actually get to that information and what's missing. On the Bing front, Bing now launched a new brand, a new branding for Bing Search. It's no longer called Bing Search. It's no longer called MSN Live. It's no longer called Live Search. It is now called Microsoft Bing. This new Microsoft Bing logo, it actually uses the Microsoft logo itself in the search results, but Bing has a new curved blue logo, a more 3D effect, which they're not using in the search results, so it's a little bit interesting to see that. Bing is also testing showing fave icons when you mouse over and hover over your mouse over the actual search results. It's pretty interesting to see. I'll include a screen scan of that. Google Search is testing a box that lets you filter by mentions of specific keywords. So it's a little box on the right-hand side. You click on it, and it'll actually show you, it'll filter results and show you those results below, which is pretty interesting. Google is also testing black deeper, darker, bolder black borders around the search bar, or search box. Google is also testing search bubble designs for the search tools box. So, where you click on all results, Google News results, images, videos, etc. Those are actually now in these little bubbles they're testing, which is pretty cool. You can definitely take a look at that. I have a screenshot over here. And also this week, the House Judiciary Committee, which was doing an investigation for the past 16 plus months or so, released their 400-page PDF findings, basically really slamming Google and Apple and Facebook and Amazon around monopolistic practices and anti-competitive practices. So it's very interesting to see that. It will take a while for anything to happen. If anything, it still has to go through multiple months, years maybe of things. But they all are calling for splitting up Google and other companies. So it's very interesting to see that, and hopefully it won't impact you at much, hopefully, in terms of your agency. Hopefully you guys are doing well, but hopefully it'll only lead to better things for all of us, although I really don't know much about this legal stuff. Greg Sterling wrote a really great recap about it on Search Engine Land, so definitely take a look at that. In any event, thanks so much for listening to the Search Buzz video recap. Okay, my name is Barry Schwartz. Today is Friday, October 9th, and this is the search news we covered over at the Search Engine Roundtable, seroundtable.com over the past week. Everyone have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys next. Goodbye.